Welcome to Culture No Cap. I'm your host, Eric Spencer, along with co-host Reverend Eric Helton in the building. How you doing, man?
What's good, man? What's good? What's good? What's good?
I'm good. Today, we have the privilege and the honor of interviewing Winston-Salem Police Department Chief William Penn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Hey, man, glad to have you. Been trying to get you on for a while.
Yeah.
Had some schedule conflicts, but you're here. Perfect timing.
Hey, it's a good week for it too.
Great week for it.
Definitely a good week.
Great week for it. Before we get started, people that don't know you, give us a little background about who you are.
So William Penn, I'm actually from Winston, and I don't know if a lot of people recognize how unique that is for the chief of police to be from that community. So our last couple of chiefs were from Detroit, was from Wilson, North Carolina, from Tampa. So it's rare that you rise through the ranks from that community. I was born in Rolling Hill Apartments, man. Back then they called it New Bethel Apartments, but that's where I was born. Grew up in an area affectionately known as the Hole. Graduated from Carver High School. Went to college, came back. Was interested in law enforcement. Thought I'd do it a couple years because when I was in college on weekends, I'd work at Forsyth Hospital as a security guard. Got to see some of the officers there. I admired what they did to keep us safe in the emergency room area. So I said, let me give it a shot. I'll do it for a couple years. 27 years later, here I am. I worked every part of the agency. I've worked every community in the city. I've worked undercover. I was a jump out in narcotics. I was over recruiting at some point, crime prevention, you name it. I've done it at the agency.
Nice. So what's your favorite part about being on the police force and being the chief? What's your favorite, most rewarding part of it?
Actually talking and dealing with the public and the people I work with. The people part of it, I love. I love speaking to the community. I'm trying to see what's going on, how we can make our community safer. I love talking to my people, letting them know that hey, I'm here to make sure that you can be successful at what you're trying to accomplish, which is keeping the community safe. So that's the favorite part of the job, man.
Nice. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. What we're going to get into. So this past week, you mentioned that there's been a rise in juvenile delinquency downtown in Winston-Salem. You mentioned that instead of charging the kids, but the parents may be charged for those offenses, pretty much, because they're not keeping their kids out of the streets. My co-host, he loves that idea. Personally, I do too, but it comes with a little conflict, as many situations do. Can you kind of explain exactly what you meant when you said this statement?
Yeah. So for me, at the end of the day, my job is to keep the community safe, including the youth. So just to set it up, I started off a press conference a joint press conference I had with the Sheriff's Department and the District Attorney with two videos. In one video, you saw a youth being pummeled. He's being jumped. He's being beaten downtown. And in the second video, you saw some risque dancing from teens. I didn't need to narrate on it because you saw what it was. What I did narrate, however, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. Kids throwing rocks downtown or anywhere in Winston-Salem. Children walking in the middle of the street, no matter where it is. And as you saw the assault, that's not safe. And that's what my job is. I asked in that press conference for the parents to be parents. That was my request. But what I also said is, if you don't do it, this is what I'll do, including charge parents. Now, there's some common sense to that, right? So one of those kids probably told their parents, hey, I'm going to stay at such and such house, and they did that. So it's not to imply that common sense wouldn't take place on it. However, if you knowingly allow your child to hang out downtown 1 o'clock in the morning and they're committing crimes, then you're going to be held accountable. At the end of the day, what I said was, I didn't want to do this. However, my job is to protect your kid, even if it's taking you to jail as protection. And that's what I'm committed to doing.
Yeah. You can jump in, Eric, whenever you
want. I'm all for it. I've been saying punish the parents. It's not your job to raise them.
Right.
So at some point, people have got to be held accountable. So, hey, man, I'll sign anything you want me to sign up for.
I think at the end of the day, who can argue with our kids shouldn't be out at 1 o'clock in the morning? So the other side of this is, think about downtown 1 o'clock in the morning. Most cars driving through downtown, guess where they're coming from? They're coming from bars.
Yep.
And there's nothing for the children down there. At 1 o'clock in the morning, there's only bars open. There's no restaurants. So again, why are you there? So I got some pushback, right? You know, and you're going to get that. And I'm here for it. So some of the things that was stated, hey, those kids are just bored, right? And that could be true, but my position remains the same. We deal with their entertainment later, once they're safe. Oh, you're only doing this because it's downtown. The first video I showed where the young man was getting jumped, do you think it mattered to him whether or not he was on Haynes Mall Boulevard, on Cleveland? Either way, he was being beat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's of no consequence. That's acceptable no matter what community it's in. And then some folks said, well, some parents aren't doing what they're supposed to do. And again, I get that. But you got to remember, again, I'm responsible for the safety of over 250,000 people in Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
Including those children. And so if parents aren't doing what they're supposed to do, we need to deal with the parents. If there's something as a community we need to do to provide entertainment for our kids, I still stand by that's parents' jobs first.
Right.
Yeah.
And although I'm not opposed to partnering with someone to give them something to do, however, 1 o'clock in the morning, I don't care. They need to be at home. That's my perspective.
Same here. And looking at 314 complaints. That's what I saw.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. I mean, why these kids, like you said, when we were kids, we've done things. We've all been there. But the activity they're engaging in, like I said, this stuff is just running rampant.
Right.
My question to you is, why are we here? Where do you think this stems from? Where does this come from? What's the root cause of this?
Oh man, so I think it's so many layers to that. Here's what I can tell you from my experience. I am convinced it's a degradation of the family structure. I've arrested so many guys over the years, guys and gals. I've seen the arrest sheets, and so on those arrest sheets, there's all this biographical information on there. One thing I would love for us to capture is maybe some information on what that family structure is like, because I guarantee you, just from talking to them, it's broken homes. Now, someone who disagree with me would say, well, I know some person who came from a broken home and they made it. I get that. And to throw that disclaimer ahead of time, there are exceptions to everything. But if you look at the research, it's not even close. It's not even debatable. Children from broken homes are more likely to be suspect in violent crimes and victims in violent crimes. Drop out of school, be arrested, murdered, across the board. It's not even close. It's not even debatable. If you instead of me, you had a high school principal here, they'd be saying everything I'm saying, verbatim. They would talk about the lack of parental participation in the schools and what that leads to in the education field. And so when those kids aren't getting the education, guess what? They're coming right back to our communities, and we're dealing with them too. We're dealing with the same juveniles that are getting in trouble in school.
Yeah. And it seems like when you bring up those points that you just brought up, it always gets politicized. It's some kind of conservative talking point.
Right.
Unfortunately. But right. I think there's something to be said about that. We shouldn't be so offended by it. We should kind of take heed to that there are broken homes. There are absentee fathers. That's a real situation. I think it's something we need to deal with and not take it so personal as a community.
Right. So the fact that I had to throw that disclaimer on there to say that I know some kids make it in spite of is because I've had these conversations and immediately I'm hit with this person. I get that. And that's great when they make it out. What I'm saying is don't ignore the countless amount of research that says what happens with broken homes. And it's not about blaming. It's about this is where we need to be. You could make the argument, and I really go back to 1960s civil rights movement, Jim Crow laws, when our community was being badgered by Jim Crow laws, it made us stronger together. The Montgomery bus boycott is just the greatest example ever, where the community came together and said, we absolutely cannot get on that bus. So what that meant is if I had a car, I was responsible for getting you two to work. It was a cause bigger than us. And that's where you got into the village, right? Because no one could get on the bus or we lose that boycott. That means even somebody I didn't even really want to deal with, didn't know that well, I had to put them in my car and take care of them because the cause was bigger than any individual. And that's how we were with our families as well. That's why we hear the stories about if you were walking down the street and you didn't say hello to an elder, guess what? It beat you back home because everyone was responsible for our children during that time because we knew danger was on the other side. So we made sure our children were behaving. I was responsible, Eric, for your kids, and you were responsible for mine because we did not want to see them harmed. And so the blueprint is there. It's the village, it's the church, it's families together, even when you don't like each other, even when you're not getting along. There was something bigger than ourselves that we could unite behind. And I just don't see that now. I just see individualized. We kind of isolated ourselves. And we also tend to believe that our children being happy is priority. And that wasn't the way I grew up.
Right.
So it's a lot of that. One of the things I talk to parents about often is you may think it's great that you are lax on rules for your children, but children will always gravitate towards structure. And where there's structure, unfortunately, is in the gang. In the gang, you have the hierarchy, you have your parameters, you know what you should do, how you should do it, and how to gain rank, almost like our families growing up. When children don't have that structure at home, they're going to seek it elsewhere. So the gangs, even in the dope game, there's a clear structure within the dope game. And unfortunately, prison is the same way. There's a structure in prison. Either way, children will gravitate towards structure. So if they don't have it at home, they'll go find it elsewhere.
So what do we do now, though? Like you said, we're in a different time. People are more concerned about us four and no more. We don't care about the bigger picture. As long as my family's good, I'm not worried about anybody else. I don't know how we get united to start making all of our children a priority. What do we do?
Yeah, so that's a tough question, because if you think about, again, if I'm saying that the 60s was the blueprint, what I'm saying is there was usually a universal place that we all respected. So let's say you and I, we don't see eye to eye. It was the church. It was a leader that we could all believe in, that could be that universal truth that we could go to. And I'm having a hard time seeing where that is now. At record levels, people aren't going to church anymore, particularly men. A lot of men aren't going to church now. So where do we go to say, hey, this is the direction we need to go? Because we're obviously not getting along. We're not agreeing here. Where's that universal place that we can go as a people, so that we can get on the right track?
Yeah, because you mentioned gangs, you mentioned prison, and a lot of these kids and some adults respect that culture more than they respect home and family and values and things like that. It's like, how do we get back to where people respect each other? Because it's as simple as respect, honestly. A lot of this. Yeah, how do we get there?
Yeah, so to your point, Chris Rock did a stand-up years ago, and he talked about a guy coming home from prison and a big cookout for that, and versus somebody graduating from college, which one we give more significance to. I think it's going to take all of us like-minded folks coming together, and we got to sell it like anything else. We're going to have to sell it to folks who aren't necessarily interested in buying what we're selling, because we got no choice. We got no choice. If you look at statistics, I think Chancellor Brown at WSSU said the incoming class or Winston-Salem State is like 70% female. 70% female. I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal that said Howard University is about the same. So our young brother's not going to college now. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions and about what that means. I understand what some of it probably means, but I would like to get data to see if they're getting a trade, or are they starting their own businesses, being entrepreneurs, and which could be the case. However, that's an extraordinary gap between our sisters and brothers in attempting to attain a higher education. We need to figure out what that means. I'm hoping the brothers ain't giving up.
Yeah, I hope not. And then when we talk about the adults, the village, you mentioned the village. A lot of these people in the village are afraid, to be honest with you. A lot of them are afraid of these kids that are violent and these gangs, and they don't want to put themselves or their family at risk when it comes to trying to guide them or trying to help them. Do you understand that perspective?
Yeah, I do. And I got to push back in a way and say this. I'm willing to die for my son. And we need to find the things in our life that we're willing to die for. So look, we all can't be Martin Luther Kings. We all can't be Medgar Evers. But there has to be something we're passionate enough about, we care enough about, that we're willing to throw it all out on the line. And if we don't, then we're just going through the motions.
You ain't getting a lot of people to line up for that, selling it like that, though.
Well, I agree. But again, you can be behind the doors at your house and be safe.
Maybe.
But will your kids be?
Yeah.
So here's, oftentimes I see where maybe North Carolina might be 20 years behind some of the things we've seen in some of the movies. Like in the past 5 to 10 years, the drive-bys in Winston-Salem and other communities have increased. Well, we saw that in Boys in the Hood, right? And so what's so sad about that is this. If my house got shot up now in a drive-by, based on the experience and based on what I've seen out in the community, I need to go talk to my son. Because what's happening is these youth are shooting at other people's houses, right? Or shooting at somebody. And then those folks are coming back to their homes and shooting up their homes. Where I'm going with that is you might die anyway. So if you don't raise your kid and they're going around town shooting up people's houses, guess what? Somebody's going to end up shooting up your house. I get it. Our kids are precious to us. We love them. We want to give them everything they want. But when we don't raise them, we're potentially raising essentially a weapon in the community. Wow. And so we have a responsibility to our children to do what's right by them, to keep them safe and to keep the community safe from them.
Yeah. I think all of that goes back to holding the parents responsible.
Well, yes. Yeah. And so I've also talked with other community groups about parenting classes and not calling it parenting classes because every parent thinks that they're doing a good job, right? As soon as you call it a parenting class, people won't be interested in attending. However, look, I've made mistakes as a parent and I've always wanted to do a great job. I could have benefited from some experience from someone else. So we got to get out of that mindset. Our children are dying in these streets or they're rotting in prison and we can do better.
Yeah. Do you think sometimes, just like you said, not calling it parenting class, do you think a lot of this political correctness that we try to do, we try to say the things the right way, do you think that kind of holds us back as far as saying what's real?
Absolutely.
What's really going on?
Absolutely. Again, I told you that I got pushed back for saying what I said. And the interesting part of they weren't even debating what I was saying, right? Mm-hmm. They were just coming up with the excuses, right? The extremes to everything. And you're right, it comes back to conservatism or yeah, you're this and you want to do law and order, blah blah blah, and I'm listening to this, I'm reading this, and I'm thinking, so what should I do? Just let it go? What's the alternative?
Right.
And yeah, it does hold us back. We and extreme politicism anyway holds people back. I just believe that there are probably principles from all parties that are good, but you're not allowed to say that now, right? No. I'm all this, I'm all that. They're bad, they're good. That's it. However, I just believe that you take what works, and that's what you do, and you don't assign a D or R or I or whatever to it. Let's just do what works. And I believe that when discipline, whatever that discipline may be, is taking place in the home, you send a child, you put a child in a better position to succeed in life.
That's true. And your message, it was a stern message. It was pretty, I could tell you were a little hot, you a little heated about that, which I get. I'm gonna play a clip. This part right here kind of stood out for me.
Okay.
If we can't get on board as a community to protect our own kids, then what does that say about who we are? Okay? It's about safety. I don't want anyone to walk out of here thinking it's about money. It's about this. This isn't safe behavior. This isn't safe for our children. You can tell a lot about a society and how they address and how they deal with their children.
Yeah, that part. That was it made a lot of sense. You can tell a lot about society. What is it saying about society in general if you don't look out for your kids? Our future.
That's our future, right? That's the future. And again, what you heard me is anticipating they're only doing this because it's downtown, right?
Yeah.
In the back of my mind, I knew that was coming. And I wanted to put all of that to bed and say, again, these are children walking the streets at 1 o'clock in the morning. This is a child being jumped. These are our children. So miss me with everything else, safety. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs talks about you need this step before you get here. And at the bottom of Maslow, what you have before you have anything is shelter, safety. You don't go to a person who's starving and try to teach them algebra, right? No, you don't care about algebra. You got to feed them first. Those needs have to be met before you get here to there. That's why, hey, they're bored. I get that. Let me get them out of the street at 1 o'clock in the morning first, and then let's entertain them. Let's stop this kid from being punched by 7 people, and then we deal with boredom. Let's stop the kids from throwing rocks, because guess what? There are people downtown who are armed, and they're going to stand their ground. Our kids don't need to be out there. And I do think it says a lot about us and what we allow from our children and what we're doing about our children.
Mm-hmm. How does this message come? How is it received coming from you? And what I mean is, you're the hometown boy. How is that received? Because I know there are people who knew you when.
Yeah. So I would tell you probably about 95% of people were like, thank you for saying it. We appreciate you saying it, Chief. Because also what I said in that press conference, I was going to be meeting with community leaders to see if we can come up with some plans. I don't want to lock kids up, man. I didn't want to deal with those kids at that level at all. But if the parents didn't, then I would. So I did meet with other community members and say, hey, what can we do about this? What can we do together? And so people are throwing some things around. They're trying to come up with, they have some ideas. But I did have that certain percent who threw out some of the same things that I said. They the kids are bored. Take some of the money from the police department and
of course, defund the police. Yeah, that's
defund the police and invest in our children. And so some of those kids, they need help, blah, blah, blah. All of the things that may be true, and particularly in fringe ways, but they also don't address the immediate issue. And so I think it's important. You got to understand where I'm coming from. And I think I started off by saying that I'm responsible for the safety of everyone.
Right.
Everyone. And so although those nuances exist, you've heard me say time and time again, we got to make it safe first.
Yeah.
Because guess what? If something happens to a child, whether it's downtown, West Winston, East Winston, North Winston, South Winston, there's a contingent out there ready to jump on board and blame the police. See the police, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. So at times it's a tough position to be in. But also I think it's important, this piece, to finally answer your question. I think this isn't a unique position by me. So I'm a Boy Scout leader. I mentor. The folks in the community know me. So I'm just not getting in this position and all of a sudden I'm talking about, I don't disagree with investing in our kids. I did it. I do it. So I think it gives me a little credibility from some to make statements like that.
Good point. You know, we talk about the culture on the show. Do you think snitching, the no snitching, how has that affected you being in the police force for over 25 years? This no snitching that exists in the streets.
So whoever came up with it probably had no idea it would be as successful to destroying a community as it has. I've had this conversation so many times in my career, but the best I've ever heard it was from a teacher in Thomasville who explained to the kids the only way you can snitch is to be a criminal. And he explained to them, snitching is you and me go rob a bank, I get caught, and I give your name up. He said, that's snitching. If somebody comes in your neighborhood and is committing a crime in your neighborhood and you think it's best not to tell, that's about as ignorant as it gets, right? I don't know how we got here. Now, something you said earlier, Eric, about being fearful, I get that. I get that some people live in neighborhoods where, you know, the police ain't gonna be here to protect me all the time. And I get that aspect of it. But for us to, and only in our community do we say no snitching, and people can come and do things in our community to our loved ones, and we don't say a word.
It's crazy.
You can't make it make sense to me.
It doesn't. It doesn't make sense, but it exists. I mean, you know, it just
it does. And then and every time we get an opportunity, we talk to kids about it. It's so the issue is that it won't resonate coming from me because of who I am and what I represent. It's up to the same people who even started this no snitch campaign. They're going to have to play a role in changing the views on that. But we lose. Point blank, we lose. When I think as a criminal, I can come to your neighborhood because you won't snitch and I can terrorize your neighborhood, we lose.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. So you see social media playing a role. I see these kids fighting and people recording, and it's going viral. And do you think this is going, like, this is something that's catching on with TikTok challenges? How does social media play a role in these crimes?
Plays a huge role. You guys ever heard of Kia Kids?
No.
Okay, I just heard about it maybe a couple months ago. Kia Kids are kids who steal Kias. So last year there was a large uptick in the theft of the Kias and some Hyundais, and so it was kids on social media, Kia Kids, who was showing how to steal these cars. They were relatively easy to steal, and so kids start stealing cars. So that's the Kia Kids. To your point, when we grew up, there was a fist fight at the park. You get your lip bloody, you get your ego bruised a little bit, and guess what? The next day, a couple people might talk about you getting your butt kicked, but it's on to the next.
Right.
Now it lives in infamy on social media. So I gotta, as the kids say, I gotta straighten my face out, right? I got beat up. It's on social media. I'm getting clowned. So now I got to up the ante. And so it's not like it's lasting more than a day. Now it's weeks and on and on. And what we know about this group of youth, they get a lot of their self-esteem by the number of likes they get, right? And so there's been research that showed females are committing suicide a lot more because of that very thing. So they post a picture of themselves, and if they get no likes, that damages their self-worth. Yeah. The same way the fights and the disrespect. So I call you out on social media, and it stays there, and it gets shared and retweeted. Eric's now he's got to straighten his face, right? He's been disrespected, and he has to do something, and it needs to be recorded, right? Because it was recorded, the disrespect. It's so dangerous, but that's a part of life now. And again, it goes back to starting in the home and explaining what self-worth is all about, and making sure your kids know that you don't get your worth from the number of likes from a bunch of strangers on social media. Your self-worth is determined by the God you serve, if you do, and the people you love, and attaining your goals. But if no one is telling you that, you will seek Facebook for approval. You will seek TikTok for approval. Yeah. And it's caused many of fights in the schools and in the community, and deaths.
Yeah. You feel like there needs to be some more discussion, especially in schools, about conflict resolution, because it seems like as people are more emotional, they don't know how to handle situations. First thing is violence. Yeah. Right away. What do we do to teach kids how to handle conflict resolution? How do we? I know it starts at home.
Yeah.
As a community.
Yeah. So there are some community groups who do the work. So they're out there and they're trying to teach classes on conflict resolution. I think framing what you call things play a large role in whether people will receive it or not. But so as soon as you call it conflict resolution, guess what? Oh, I ain't got no problem with conflict resolution. I don't need to go to that.
It's like anger
so as we work on our emotional intelligence, all of us, our awareness and how that affects others, what our triggers, we have to do a better job of framing it, and how do we get that out to the community. So our leaders, particularly our coaches, yeah, we want to teach them how to shoot that ball. We want to teach them how to throw and catch that ball and block, but we got to be teaching them some life skills as well, because for some of these kids, that's the only place that they're going where they can get a message that they're interested in. But what that means is they can't see the coach out there on Saturdays getting in a fight with the refs and cursing and carrying on, right? We have to set the example that we wish our kids to be. And I can't get on my social media without seeing adults fighting. I mean, soon as maybe I said something about me and my algorithms. I don't know. But every time I get on, whether it's X, whether it's there's just adults fighting. I saw on Mother's Day, I pulled something up and it said apparently at this Golden Corral in Greensboro on Mother's Day, they show these women, and that went viral. I mean, that went nationwide, and I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it said it was in Greensboro. If I'm seeing it, our kids are seeing it, and if no one pays me attention when I make decent grades, when I am behaving, if that gets me no attention, but me getting in a brawl downtown gets me attention, because any attention is better than no attention, right? Some of those kids I expected to see this weekend because they got the attention of the chief of police. and maybe they're not getting the attention at home. So we have to show the way as adults first.
Yeah. Well, on a national level, should we hold these social media companies accountable, taking these images down immediately and not allowing this stuff to go viral? What do you think about that?
Yeah. So we have our politicians for a reason, right? And so we do have a voice in what we'd like to see, what should be allowed. I mean, I think some of the risque videos or the social media companies are responsible for that. So there's a way around it. And I know some of the opponents of that will discuss First Amendment rights, this, that, and the other. But there's a way to restrict that violence. And in fact, I think I think we may be moving in that direction. So now I'm starting to see disclaimers on YouTube or something that some things are getting ready to be violent or disturbing video. And so I think that's a step in the right direction. However, what I think for a youth, when they see that disclaimer, that's all the more reason to watch it as opposed to turn it off. But again, and I know parents are working and doing the best they can. These phones and computers are raising our kids, and they're spending so much time on it that, you know, if they're watching 2 and 3 hours of fights every day, why in the world are we going to be surprised that when they go to school and have some conflict, they don't start throwing hands?
Exactly.
It just makes sense.
Exactly. Yes, something.
No, because I'm going to change gears, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to change gears. So we're looking at today, actually, the 5th anniversary. I hate to call it anniversary.
Hey, man, you stole my question. Go ahead.
Sorry. George Floyd. Can you talk to me a little bit about 5 years ago when this happened and talk about how it affected you personally, on the police department, and how far we've come from that time?
Yeah, so I remember seeing the video for the first time, and if you can remember, at the time that occurred, the big story was the black guy in New York bird watching, and the lady said that she was threatened by him.
Yeah,
that was the number one story going on when I saw for the first time the George Floyd video, because I'm looking at the video of George Floyd and it looks like I'm 2 minutes into it and it says it's like 9 minutes, right? And so I'm looking at 2 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. And I said, but it's no way this goes on for 9 minutes. And there's no way this guy dies. No way I'm getting ready to see that. Mm-hmm. So I took my phone and fast forwarded to the end, and I see him lifeless. So then I go Google Minneapolis police, and I saw that he died. And I called. I was an assistant police chief then, and I called a friend of mine. I said, I just saw the worst video I've ever seen in my life, and told him about it. When I got to work, I talked to Chief Katrina Thompson and the other assistant chiefs, the executive staff. I said, this video is absolutely the worst video you've ever seen, and there are going to be problems. And then as it started to spread, it was man, it was extremely tense. In Winston-Salem, the first demonstrations we saw, the crowd was pretty. They were pretty angry, and so the chief at the time, Katrina Thompson, she was marching in the demonstrations with some of the folks from the community, and what the organizer of the demonstration gave her the mic to speak, and she talked about how outraged she was about the video, and that she had a child with special needs, and she was asking for the community to believe that as a mother of a child with special needs who would need more attention from the police department, more patience from a police officer, that she would lead the organization in a manner that would reflect her as a Black mom. And I would tell you, the crowd, when they listened to her and she was crying and they saw her passion for that, it saved Winston-Salem. It did. The crowd calmed down. We had at least 100 more days of demonstrations, but there was no violence in Winston-Salem. And there was violence in Greensboro. There was violence in High Point. I mean, almost every other city had some sort of violence or vandalism, and we did not have that in Winston-Salem. I think it was a large part to what she said, but also we had done the work ahead of time. So we had been out in the community. They knew who we were. That wasn't the first time the community is seeing the police chief. It's important to go ahead and establish that before the big event, because when a big event happens, there ain't no talking. There ain't no trying to get to know each other. So as far as the policing side of that, what was more refreshing is police officers being sickened by it, right? Other police officers being sickened by it, being angered by it, because every police department paid a price for what happened there. And if you understand, that's where the defund the police movement came from. And every police department, including ours, we lost a lot of good people because of that. And of course, it was COVID. It was just a lot going on. A lot of people walked away from the profession because even their family said, this ain't worth it. This is not worth it.
5 years later, is there a change in how your job was perceived or looked at in 2020, 5 years later today? How has it changed?
Yeah, so how it's changed is we talk more about failure to intervene than we ever did. So if you think about that video, you saw some folks running around while the officer had his knee on the neck of George Floyd, and you're like, what are they doing? Culturally, the younger officers didn't intervene with senior officers. It was kind of the thought that they know what they're doing. What we do now, and we have a class that's getting ready to graduate in the next couple of weeks, even at that basic level, they're understanding their duty to intervene when they see something that's not right, that doesn't look right. And we do that now, and it's a part of our rule of conduct. You have a duty to jump in there and do something, or you'll go down with them. So, and now having the proof, having the convictions that went with that, officers know now, hey, if you're doing something, I got to jump in, which is what we want. Even the way we subdue individuals that knee, even close to that area, to the neck, out the door.
Did y'all have that?
So we had already gotten rid of that. However, what I'll tell you is from time to time in scuffles, sometimes things happen. It really does. You have all intentions of doing it the right way, and you're rolling around with somebody arresting them. Those things can happen, but that's when the next officer need to say, hey, Will, you got your knee on his back. He can't breathe. You got to have that communication. And now more than ever, officers know that. I can be, I might have been reluctant years before because that's just how we were trained. Now I know, hey man, what are you doing? You got to stop, get off. I got him. Let's do it this way, which is what we want to do. And we do. I think our agency does a terrific job of making sure when we go out, we understand we're not at war with the community. We are part of the community, and they're humans, and treating people like we would want our loved ones to be treated.
Do you feel like there was a personal attack at that time on police officers? Did you take any of the things that were being said personal during that time?
Well, yeah, I did. I did. I understood the anger. Truly, I did. But when you get called sellouts and things of that magnitude, and even the defund the police movement, man, it was very telling with Pew and Gallup reports where you saw the black community was not on board with defund the police, because they knew that their communities our communities would end up getting hurt. What they wanted, which is what anyone would want, is good and fair policing, and which is not an unreasonable expectation of our law enforcement agencies. But yeah, it was tough. Our folks, after 100 days of policing demonstrations, making sure the people involved in the demonstrations are safe, but the whole time you're hearing defund them or racist pigs or whatever they're saying, it weighs on you. It does.
Yeah.
Because at some point you're like, I don't have to do this.
Well, so
I'm trying to help you.
And that's what a large group that left the profession, their families were telling them, nah, this ain't worth it.
Mm. Do you think things have gotten better in 5 years as far as a relationship?
So I do. I think that folks coming into the profession know what could happen. So part of the frustration with the community is they weren't seeing officers get convicted, right? So it was almost like they can do anything. I think we've seen several convictions of officers over the past 5 years. We've seen the officer go into the wrong house in Texas, and the community is seeing people go to prison when they commit crimes, which is something they hadn't seen before. The same way the community is seeing it, people coming into the professions are seeing it. And so there's a recognition, hey, if I'm not coming in here for the right reason, if I'm not doing the right thing, I could be charged. And so having that, seeing that and understanding that, that's always going to be good in that sense. I think the accountability with videos, that's going to ensure that there's some better behaviors out there, but it works both ways. Oftentimes our body-worn cameras are able to show that the officer was doing the right thing as opposed to the wrong thing. So I do think that there's more accountability in policing than it's ever been.
Do you go ahead, Eric? I feel like you got something, I can tell.
I was chuckling.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, this is kind of switching gears again, and you can answer it or you cannot answer it. So, when we see everything that's happening in our communities, and we see people stand up saying "back the blue," and you want to be supported, how do you feel when patriots get pardoned for assaulting police officers?
So there was an article in the journal. I was asked about it, and I said I'm never going to be on board with anybody being pardoned for assaulting a police officer, and I stand on that.
Yeah. We can leave it there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So as a police department, have you all made a conscious effort in making sure that the officers are in the community, black officers in particular in black communities, to to be seen in other times other than crime, when there's a crime committed or disturbance of that sort?
Yeah. So one of the things I thought it was important to do, particularly when I became the chief, is to truly talk about community policing. So community policing is a term the community uses, and normally the leaders of law enforcement agencies used, but I didn't feel like we had explained it thoroughly to our officers, because community policing doesn't mean don't do your job. Community policing means that you partner with the community with whatever gifts you have to establish relationships with the community so that they feel more comfortable and you earn some trust with them, right? So whenever you see, I swear I didn't want to do it, man. I did not want to do it. They came up to me and said, hey, the boots on the ground, right? Did y'all see our video?
I saw your video, man.
Okay, so I didn't want to do it.
But you was doing it.
Yes, yes. Yeah. But it's another way to humanize the profession. And we were doing that with many people in the community. So there are officers who don't feel comfortable with that. That's fine. What do you feel comfortable with giving some of your talents to the community to bring them in? And explaining to the officers that's what community policing is, and you still put violent people in jail. I think it's gone a long way with our agency. They understand community policing is not policing. It's establishing relationships and still doing your job. So we were, I would tell you, we were just so short after COVID and George Floyd that it has been difficult to participate in as many events as we used to, but we turned a corner on that. So we're getting people back in the profession. And so, yeah, everyone knows that the goal is for you to be out there throwing the football with our youth, reading a book, high-fiving, sharing a snow cone during the summer with our community. Because I tell them all the time, you can do both. You can put the criminal that needs to be taken off the street in jail without being a jerk. Mm. You can wave at people when you ride by, even if they don't wave back. And we establish that early in their careers, and we keep pounding it. All of our employees at the police department will tell you these are conversations we have, not when something bad has happened, but on a daily basis.
Yeah. So the Community Engagement Committee that you started back in 2023, we partnered with Sheriff Kimbrough. I applaud you for that. That was great. Is that still going on?
Oh, day? Yes. So some of them were in the video. So the Community Engagement Committee is oftentimes law enforcement. When we get in front of the community, it's why something bad has happened, right? Everybody's upset. We I have to defend the actions of the police. Listen, let's not do that. Let's establish a relationship where we're talking all the time. So we go to the community meetings, but what we also do, this Community Engagement Committee, they live in the community. And so quarterly we get together and I present to them, hey, this is what's going on at the police department. There's new initiatives, this, that, and the other. And they come back to me and they say, Chief, people really fed up with the speed at such and such. I take that information. We include that into our strategies of keeping the community safe. And it's that ongoing communication, that ongoing dialogue, so that, again, like I stated earlier, the first time we're talking isn't during some sort of tumultuous situation. The relationships are there. They know what we're doing. And at the dinner table, I expect them to say, hey, the chief said what he said Monday about the kids downtown because he cares about the kids about those children, and explaining so that even in those cookouts, those conversations aren't so one-sided.
I mean, people come to you and say they speeding too much.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, that's snitching. That's snitching right there.
well, according to the definition of the teacher, that's right. It is snitching if you're doing it too. Right. I agree.
That's a good point. So your partnership, I see you partner a lot with Sheriff Kimbrough. What has that relationship been like? It seemed like you guys really engage and try to get these programs going. What is that relationship like with Sheriff Kimbrough?
Yeah, so we talk several times a week, and we bounce things off each other. Hey, man, what you think about this? Hey, man, what you think about that? What you think about this? Hey, you want to do this? All the time. So, Sheriff Kimbrough, homegrown, Happy Hill Gardens. We got family here. So when I say we take it personal, we take it, so things going on in our community, we do. We got loved ones here. It's more than just about a job. I will tell you that in most larger cities, in which Winston-Salem is in the big scheme of things, a large city, and comparatively, the sheriff and the chief don't get along. In most of those cities and states, cities and counties, they don't get along. They sit on, whenever they have to come together, they sit on opposite sides of the room. And so a lot of the U.S. attorneys will talk about that and say, these guys like each other. These guys talk with one another. So when I can't just think about it, just to put it in perspective, when I came in, I heard the reports of what happened this weekend, over the weekend. When I came in Monday, when I called Sheriff Kimbrough and said, hey, I need some help, his answer was yes before I even got it out of my mouth, right? And called the DA and said, hey, I need to talk about charging parents. And he's like, let's do it. And when the sheriff calls me, he said, hey, do you mind, blah, blah, blah. Answer's yes. We both know that we have the interest of the community at heart, and there's a trust there. Plus, I've known the sheriff when he worked in the DEA, and I was a narcotics detective, so we go way back. It's a great relationship.
That's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, you can see it. You can see it, man. That's great. What's been your biggest challenge as a chief, since you've been the chief of police? What's been your biggest challenge you faced?
And so when I took over, staffing was a huge issue. It was tough to get things accomplished because we just didn't have the bodies. There was a point in 2021, 2020, we were losing four officers a month, sometimes 5. And I mean, it was just brutal because it takes a whole year to replace a seasoned officer. So an officer walk out of the door, they resign, they retire, whatever, between the background check when we get a new employee, going to rookie school, and then training with a field training officer before they're released from training, it's a year. So it's a big deal when we lose one. So that was it. That was a huge challenge. That year, when I took over as chief, when I got the job as chief at the end of January, we had 9 homicides then. We had 9 homicides in that month. So we were on pace for, and we broke a record of homicides that particular year. But we had 9 in January, just crazy time. So dealing with the vacancies, dealing with the violent crime that was taking place at the time was a huge challenge.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a whole lot. Go ahead, Eric.
I mean, he just hit it.
Yeah,
I really commend you because I'm not gonna say I'm not a fan of the police because the community I live in, they don't fool with me, I don't fool with them, everything. I mean, so it's not an issue of that. But I commend you for working and putting your heart out there to try to make the community better, not just growing up, we always thought, you might not have thought this, we always thought that the cops were is that offensive?
Cops?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. We always thought that cops were the kids in high school that didn't get along with nobody, and they got this job so they can get back at people.
I've heard that before.
But I commend you for doing.
I can tell you, I graduated from Carver. I got along with everybody. I didn't get sand kicked in my face.
Ain't no way you graduated from Carver and got along with everybody.
Well, I didn't get along with everybody. I got along with a lot of them.
Yeah, that's what I say. I always hear good things. Like everybody loves you, man. Like
when everybody don't love me, but
let's not say everybody. There's a large group of people that really love what you do, and they always say you're a good guy. That's why you're a good guy. And we see you out. I see you at the barbershop, see you in the gym. I see you out. You're in the community. Yeah. And that means a lot for people to just see you out like this. Yeah. So I asked you what your biggest challenges were. What are the biggest accomplishments that you've had so far as a chief?
Yeah, to everything that I said was a challenge. So we have been experiencing a net loss of officers since 2012. So it was a net loss of 1, net loss of 3, net loss of 5. And then in 2020, like I told you, net loss of 53, 2 years in a row So last year, for the first time in over a decade, we had a net gain of 23 officers last year.
All right.
So this year we're looking like it's going to be even more. We just did an internal survey in the agency. Of those who participated, 73% of the employees said they felt valued.
All right.
Of that, 25 years and younger, 90% of them felt valued. That's how you improve the culture. Officers who feel valued, they will go out and do a better job for the community. So that's my job. My job is to ensure everyone knows expectations, make sure they have what's needed to achieve those, and make sure when they do it, I acknowledge it as well as when they don't. And that's why I think they feel valued. I will also say that the community has been incredibly supportive of the police department. So when all that's happening, guess what? People want to be involved in what we do. I know you two follow our social media, so I'm not going to even ask. But in following our social media, what you see is officers engaging the community. You'll see the press releases, the serious stuff, but you'll see the human side. You'll see interaction with the community. And when folks are interested in working in law enforcement, when they look at our social media, they say, yeah, there's a place there for me. So one of our campaigns now is Be Real, Be You, Be Blue. And what that means is it's a place for everybody at the police department. If you're the kid who used to talk in class and got in trouble, well, we got a place for you, because 90% of law enforcement should be talking. We should be rarely pulling out handcuffs, pulling out our guns, all of that. No, 90% of the time we're using our gift of gab to de-escalate situations. So if you're a talker, I got a place for you at the police department. If you like fixing puzzles, there's a place for you in our fraud and some of these other crimes that take some in-depth investigation. Whatever it is you're good at this point in time, there's a place for you at the police department. So our staffing is going incredible right now. Our violent crime, oh my gosh, I just told you that when I started, it was 9 that month. I can tell you what, we're halfway through this year and we're not even close to 9, just to give you a comparison. So a large part of that is putting the right people in jail. It is working with some of our community groups. And, I got to give credit to the community. And sometimes That means when all those aggravated assaults and homicides are being reduced, that means some people are walking away from situations that could get violent. So I got to give a lot of credit to the community. It's a lot of good things being done at the police department right now. I'm extremely proud.
Nice. Shout out to your social media team. Whoever's doing your social media, man, they're doing a great job.
They're killing it, ain't they?
Yeah, they kind of killing it. Yeah, they're kind of killing it. So for somebody like me and my wife, we love to go downtown. Love downtown Winston.
Right.
With the recent stuff going on, it's kind of shaky, But what do you say to ensure people that it's going to get better? Yeah, it's okay to go downtown and have a good time.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll start with it's already better. I was downtown last night. We had the sheriff's department. Our staff was there, and I think the message resonated. Downtown is for everyone to enjoy, but we're not going to tolerate illegal behavior. That's youth or adult. If it would have been an adult doing that, they would have got snatched up too. So one of the things I talked to my staff last night before we hit the streets was, we're not against the youth. That's not what this is about. What this is about is keeping whatever area, downtown just happened to be the area last night, but it's whatever area that we're working in is safe. And we're not going to have anybody come in and mess that up. Come downtown. If you see something, say something, and we will address it. And if we all did that, and again, if parents, make sure you know where your kids are. Downtown, nor any other place in Winston-Salem is a place to babysit. But if it was, and there were juveniles downtown, I saw some of them trying to get on the scooters, but the scooters were turned off. But if they were down there not bothering anybody, then, have at it. Have fun, everybody. So we're ready for whatever may take place. And as you can see, we're aware and we're prepared.
Yeah, you said more police presence.
It was.
Downtown. Yeah, that's good.
They had me out there, man. So you know something. I was out there.
It was serious.
It was serious business.
Yeah. So do you golf or what do you do on your spare time, like to relax? And
so I bike.
Okay.
Yeah, so I bike. I have a road bike. I have a hybrid bicycle. I work out. I love live jazz. Listen to live jazz and that's pretty much what I do. I have my family's here. I got a great family. We're always doing something on the weekend. So I got stuff that kind of gets me away as much as I can get away from what's going on. But I could do a little bit better because I'm always on my phone looking and, reading emails, seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
I probably don't do a good enough job of truly getting away.
That almost makes you sound like a real person, though. You can't really.
Yeah.
You can't really be a real person. You just got to be top cop.
Yeah. So I say it's being from the city. It's a blessing and a curse, right? Because I get a ton of support, man. Eric, to your point, man. I even when press about me isn't so nice, I get phone calls from the community. We with you, we got you, whatever. But with that, I get a lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
And I try to tell people, I said, listen, if you got something going on right now, calling me is a waste of your time because I'm just going to call the person that needs to address it. I'm not working any cases. I'm not writing tickets. I'm not arresting anybody right now. Call 911 if it's 911 worthy, or call the police department. But some people just feel better calling me directly.
So you thought about changing your numbers? What you're trying to do? You thought about it.
I can see it. But, little Willie, we went to school, elementary school together. I got this problem. Yeah. I need you to fix it.
They'll be calling me. It'd be a police officer right there. And I said, why are you calling me? I got the chief on the phone. And I say, listen, you get off the phone with me and you talk to that officer. And because I don't want my officers also feeling like they're being undermined because I'm a local guy.
Yeah. And it'd be us, though. You ain't got to admit it. It's us, ain't it?
It's people who know me well.
Good answer. So, Chief, so when it's all said and done, when you're ready to kick back, ride your bike, relax, and you're ready to hang it up and retire, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to remember about you as the chief of police or as a man?
It's one of the few times that the answer is the same, that I cared. I want my officers to know, my officers and my employees. It's a lot of we get so caught up in the officers. It's communications operators, forensic records, our IT folks, evidence folks. It's a lot of people doing tremendous work that helps keep this community safe. I want them to know that I cared about them, that I rooted for them, and I hope I'm pushing them. I hope I'm pushing them in a way to accomplish things that they didn't think that they could accomplish before. I hope the community feels the same way, that I care. I push back to the community. That press conference was a plea to parents to do what they're supposed to do. I pled with the community to walk away from conflict, to see something, say something. You've entrusted me with this position, but that position isn't Superman. It's community safety. It's public safety. It's not police safety. The police department is not the only entity responsible for safety in our community. So I request that of the community, because for us to get where we want to be, it's going to take all of us. So that I cared enough to push a little bit, even the community, to do things that maybe chiefs before me didn't say to them, but it's because I care.
I like that.
Nice. Good. You got anything, Eric?
Oh, I like that.
Man, I appreciate you coming on the show. First of all, I appreciate you coming on.
Man, I appreciate the invite, man. This don't have to be the last time you have me on.
It won't be. We'll have you back on, man. We'll definitely have you back on. But yeah. So yeah, thanks for coming. Go ahead. You got one
question.
Go for it.
Did he do it?
Who?
Yeah, he did it. We all know he did it. Yeah, he did it.
What?
Yes, he did it.
Did it, fool?
Man, I thought you were talking about OJ.
Oh man, everybody knew he did it.
That's why I was like, "Who is he talking?" Oh, did he? Yeah, did he?
Did he? Man, we saw some of what he did, so we know he did that part of it, man.
But overall,
so it's funny. One of the things we as a community also, we have to get to a place where we are content with ourselves, that we don't think that we have to allow somebody to torture us so that we look better in the community. So as we're having this conversation, Diddy will get what's deserved, but I'm concerned about people who would allow him to do it because money, because of access. So we talked a lot in this conversation about self-worth. So it's okay not to be able to hang out with celebrities at the MetLife Gala,
right?
Particularly if you got to do this for that lifestyle. So caring too much about looking like we are important and we're special, and we catching hell behind the scenes. So we really need to work on our self-worth.
That's a good point. And we talk about celebrity worship, how we as a culture love celebrities, but people like yourself in the community are the people that we should be looking to, you should be looking up to, who's part of the community, who grew up in the community, made something out of themselves. And that's the way I feel. That's the way I've always felt.
Well, I appreciate We do. We got some incredible people. I was classmates with the chancellor at North Carolina Central. You got Commissioner Melissa Woodbury. I went to school with her. So it's some incredible folks who are doing some incredible things that we can look to. We can touch those people. We can talk to those people.
Right.
Do you feel like you're being showcased enough, and these people are being showcased enough and put out there to the youth? Are they doing
I think I am. I think they show me too much. But I don't. No, I don't. I don't. Dr. Dion Gallo. I went to school with doctors. My sister's an attorney. We have local celebrity. Whatever you want to do. I went to school with Crystal Scales. She was an actress that was in I Got a Man video and some others. So all this was at Carver High School in a four-year place. We got Scott Galton, who was highly ranked in the fire department. Whatever you're looking for is probably at every local high school. They have. You want to talk to a doctor? Here's a doctor. I went to school with Dr. Mark Oliver.
Yeah, it's my dentist.
Yeah. So all you got to do, we do need to showcase these folks so that they're not looking in New York or LA. We got these folks right here that can help guide them, and they want to. You got Dr. Card here. It's just some incredible folks here doing some incredible work that the kids can talk to. And like you said, can reach out and touch. And we could do a better job of showcasing those folks.
There's your next event, Chief.
Yeah.
Do it. Make it happen. Let's go.
We make it happen. Yeah.
You got a DJ. I got you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's what he does.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, again, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you. We appreciate what you do. And looking forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. And stop them people from speeding.
I do what I can on that.
And that make sure you subscribe, like, do all the things. Thanks for coming on, Chief. Thanks again, Eric. As always, good pod.
All right, man. I enjoyed it. Love you, man.
Culture, no cap. Love you too, man.